XRP is not the mark of the beast, but the system that is being built on top of the XRP ledger could lead to the further development of the mark of the beast, because I believe the mark of the beast was already here and that we were born into it. But this system that the governments and institutions are building are going to lead to complete financial control over your life. But if you own the underlying asset of the XRP ledger, the native XRP token, this is where you have complete sovereignty over your life because they cannot control this token. So what do I mean by this? Well, basically there's an XRP ledger and there's going to be two sides to the equation. One side is going to be the XRP asset token. The other side is going to be CBDCs, digital IDs. This side of the equation, the XRP asset, is going to be complete sovereignty over your financial life. The other side is going to be complete control over your financial life. And we see this all the time in nature, where there's two extremes to the equation. And we also see this in the whole awakening movement, where there's people that are still asleep versus awake. There's people that are still working in the matrix versus not working in the matrix. There's going to be people that are going to be completely controlled by their finances and people that are completely sovereign with their finances. And I'm going to explain this. So basically these CBDCs are programmable money, which they are going to be using the XRP ledger to build these on. So basically these CBDCs can be frozen, reversed, and expired if you don't use them by the end of the month. And they can block these transactions to anyone, anywhere, for any justified reason. This is because of the clawback feature that's on the XRP ledger. This is already being tested in China and Europe. But this is where it gets interesting, because XRP itself, the native asset for the XRP ledger, the entire network, is immune to this clawback feature. It cannot be reversed, it cannot be seized on chain, and it cannot be frozen by a government or a bank. It would be like trying to take back the concrete of a finished highway, because XRP is the foundation of what they're trying to build these CBDCs on top of. In other words, you can control the traffic, the transactions, you can control the tolls, the fees, you can control the cars, the users, but you cannot go in and take back the very foundational material without destroying the very system that you are building on top of it. With XRP, with owning XRP, you do not need to use a government wallet. You do not need permission because you become your own bank. You won't need to get a mark or a chip to participate in their own system because you own XRP.